and welcome to India Market Open. And it's been a pretty exciting day of trade yesterday. Global markets this morning as well looking pretty good. Tamanna, Niraj, it was slow and steady for the bulls yesterday. The Nifty has recouped 300 points in the last 3 trading days. We've pretty much done good the losses that we saw last Wednesday when the street was a little nerved.
Just about 3 odd trading sessions left, and we are looking like we're going to close the year out in a very, very positive note. That mood definitely continues, and if there is a Santa Claus rally, I know you're not a believer, we're definitely seeing it.
No, I'm not saying I'm not a believer. I'm just saying that recent data apparently has said that the Santa Claus rally may not necessarily be the right point. But we'll get to that. But yeah, just the fact that this morning too, the mood doesn't seem to be too bearish, but there's some chinks in the armor.
And I don't think we can rule it out that we might actually close the year at a new high. 21,593 is what we made on December 20th. We are in kissing distance to that. So if all goes well, who knows? 21,600 on Friday.
Oh wow, that would be quite way to bring in the new year. Then you're going to see different levels of crackers going off.
And globally as well, things are supported this morning.
So let's start with that. Good global cues overnight. Wall Street is continuing its winning pace and all set to close at a very, very decent year end in the final week of 2023. In fact, just for an idea of this in context, the Nasdaq could close over 40% up year on year. So it's looking good there. The only chink in the armor, perhaps, if I'm borrowing from what Niraj just said, is what's happening in the Red Sea right now. And that is a bit of a problem. So you saw that impact crude prices, but it did claw back. So here's what's happening. The Houthi rebels backed by Yemen are continuing their attacks on any kind of carriers coming through the Red Sea, which goes into that narrow Strait of Hormuz. So the latest container attack happened on Tuesday. There was an attempted drone attack in Israel as well. And here's where it gets tricky, because an Israeli minister has indicated that they are going to or are already having retaliatory attacks in Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. So the essential fear is that the Israel-Gaza conflict, which has not ended, by the way, it was because whenever the world stopped talking about it, it's still going on, could spread. So that's the sort of fly in the ointment, so to speak, to look out for. Apart from that, your bonds are doing fine. The PC numbers which came in is heartening. Asia is also up because China looks like it's going to ease off on its clampdown on gaming stock. So you're seeing a good boost this morning in Asia. But Niraj, the trade setup domestically is going to focus on a lot more.
Yeah, it will. So, I mean, 2 factors which might, like you said, chinks in the armor. One of them is this global peace and crude prices higher, geopolitics. We can do with yet another extension to the geopolitical piece. So that's one. And 2, yesterday, VIX and PC are both inched up. So from a technical perspective, yesterday was yet another day of a higher lie, higher low. So therefore, that augurs really well. But VIX went up. Nifty PCR went up as well, and Nifty PCR moving higher. It's not currently at the stratospheric levels from where you would blindly say that the markets will likely come off, but it is inched higher for sure. So this is the technical formation, which is part 1. But yes, and there is a positive bias, but the VIX and PCR are an issue. The other piece is Bank Nifty. Now, Bank Nifty, Friday was bad, yesterday was well behaved, and you saw some very aggressive put writing happening. 47,500 strike, and you would want to believe now that until expiry, which is tomorrow, this is the line in the sand when it comes to the Bank Nifty. So purely on the basis of the put positions. So is this a support for the Bank Nifty, and therefore if the Bank Nifty gives the support, does it give a bit of an edge to the Nifty to stay afloat and stay higher? That's the key thing. Very strong traction. I mean, we were talking about real estate, and that space is doing really well. What's gotten added in yesterday's session in particular are sort of course, defense stocks because of that warship, but just see the kind of buying and the long positions in API stocks / pharma stocks and chemical specialty chemical stocks. And it was not just, by the way, only specialty chemicals like fine organics or Aarti or alkylamines, maybe, if you will, but even bulk chemicals. Tata Chemicals had a big day yesterday. Deepak Nitrite, yet another day of trade yesterday, which was positive. So a clutch of these specialty chemical companies are doing well. And, Tamanna, Samina, both of you would remember, everybody from a Mihir Vora to a Hiren Ved to anybody else has said that chemicals might now be turning a corner fundamentally 6-9 months out, and the markets might start discounting them. I don't know if this is that discounting piece, but clearly some very strong moves yesterday in the chemical and the API stocks for sure.
Yeah.
No, I don't think the markets is now looking for any sort of themes, right? So sectors or stocks that haven't participated since November are coming back into play. And that could also be one of the reasons why you saw buying emerging in some of these specialty chemical names. Like Niraj said, the next 2 quarters is when the turnaround is expected for a lot of these specialty chemical names. So all those counters were in focus. But going back to what Niraj, you indicated on Bank Nifty. So while 47,500 seems like a good level of support that will come in for Bank Nifty, worth noting is that December's actually been a very solid series for Bank Nifty. We are up 7%, 2,200 points on it. So to give it some credit, while it looks like there is resistance at 48,000 and a close about that would be very convincing and promising for the bulls on the street. But the fact remains it's done its heavy lifting this month.
Well, it would have done in December because 2023 has been a washout year for banks for sure.
Yeah, so I think on the downside, you've got 47,500 that will act as a key level of support. On the upside, 48,000, 48,250 are levels to watch out for. VIX, of course, is something we'll watch out for in today's day of trade. Like Niraj said, that is what jumped about 7-odd%. So these numbers did throw the bulls off guard, but we finally ended the day in positive territory on a relatively quiet morning. So the market started off very peacefully. The gains actually rolled in the second half of trade. But let's take you through what we're expecting in today's day of trade. Tamanna indicated Asian markets are up and about. Australian markets are trading at a 2-year high. So you've got activity taking place across Asian markets. Cues that came in from Wall Street also are lending us support this morning. We are expected to see a marginal gap up opening. Remember, 21,593 is the high that was made by the Nifty before we saw that fall last week. So we'll watch out for that. 70-point gap up on GIFT Nifty is what we are working with. But lots of stock-specific action. There'll be sectors to watch out for, but I'll just quickly take you through a few names that we'll dwell into a little bit more when we come back. But Tamanna, you want to quickly come in on fund flows before I jump into stocks? I just realized that that's what we're supposed to do first.
So fund flows have been seeing tepid volumes, but 6 consecutive trading days have been seeing FIIs selling. So we saw that yesterday as well. But 95 odd crores DIs are buying 167 crores. But I think we need to see it in the broader picture of how much money has come in the month of December, which has already crossed 57,000 crore rupees. So you are going to see those volumes drop off as is expected. But I think the action is going to be stock specific and a lot of buzz, Samina, and I know that's on your list on all the Adani counters.
Indeed, they've been the hottest stocks in the last 6 to 8 weeks and continue to be so for good enough reason. What we've had that's come in news yesterday, of course, and this is why Adani Green is going to be one of your top counters to watch out for in trade today. We will delve a little more into that in a few more minutes from now, but just to mention that upfront, Adani has got some news coming in where the promoters are infusing 9,350 odd crores into the company. This, of course, comes in on the foot of an additional $300 million JV that they signed with Total. Along with this, they also managed to raise about $1.4 billion from international banks. All this money, remember, which is significant in quantum, has come into Adani Green in the last 6 weeks. The price point also is interesting to note. The stock, remember, had hit the low of 486 during the Heidenberg episode. Promoters have infused at a price of about 1480 a piece. That was pretty much the range it was trading in just before the Heidenberg issue. So worth noting that this shows the commitment and the faith that the promoters have, and the companies also managed to raise a significant amount of capital in such a short period of time. So that's worth taking note of. The stock went home with gains of 5% yesterday, will be in focus this morning again. And like I said on Editor's Cup, this is going to be the big talking point in today's session. Along with that, you've also got Adani Port. They, we believe, will consider a fundraising via non-convertible debentures on the 3rd of Jan. So again, watch out for this one. May not see a big reaction at today's day of trade, but as we run up to the 3rd of Jan and after seeing what has happened at the Adani Green board meeting, this one will be important to watch out for. Also going to put it out there, Adani Energy, this is what has been reported in the exchanges. They've been awarded a 7 gigawatt renewable energy evacuation transmission network. Again, a big one in the offing. So Adani Energy, Adani Port and Adani Green are the 3 Adani Group stocks you want to watch out for in today's day of trade. Moving on from Adani, you've got a couple of other names that we'll track. Kansai Nerolac, they will look to sell a land parcel in Low Parel for about 726 crores. The stock will be in focus this morning. 1% up is what it went home with yesterday. Today, of course, on back of this news trigger, you may see some movement on the counter. That's pretty much it. But Tamanna, Niraj, lots of other sectors. So defense, I clearly will be doing well. Shipbuilders specifically, but a whole bunch of other names that you've got.
Finance as well. Bajaj Finance and RBL. This is something that responded and reacted in closing hours yesterday because the RBI has come down fairly heavily on the co-branded credit card that Bajaj Finance and RBL have. And we saw that playing out yesterday. So that will be in focus. Morgan Stanley has a note out this morning on Bajaj Finance where they say that BAF may have sufficient time to correct deficiencies. So some heartening point from there as far as Morgan Stanley is concerned. That stock was down yesterday. It may see some rebound today. So Morgan Stanley expects operations should continue as usual and unlikely to be a material impact on earnings for Bajaj Finance. Well, honestly, the dependence is more for RBL, so that's where the pain is. They also say BAF's share price decline could be attributed to negative sentiment on regulatory concerns. Also, let's quickly look at Vishnu Prakash Punglia. They've got an LOA for orders worth 899 crores from the Uttarakhand government for development projects. Then out of that, 525 crores is for water supply systems in Haldwani and 373 crores for water supply systems in Kotwar. We are going to be talking with the management a little later in the show and just get a sense of where that order book is stacking up. I'll just add one more, Z Entertainment Enterprise, just because they've been in the news to a large extent, and this is for Z Learn. Which is their education arm. Axis Bank has now filed an insolvency petition against Ceylon in the NCLT Mumbai. So these are some of the stocks, but a lot of brokerage reports out this morning as well. Niraj, anything that you are tracking?
Also, yeah, and yes, very light, but just a couple of things before that. One newsmaker, a small one at that, is CMEC. So it's a small company, of course. Keep in mind revenues of about 470, 480 crores, if I'm not wrong. They've signed an MOU with HAL Offshore for a charter hire of an offshore support vessel. Now, this MOU is for 3 years at a cost of $9.5 million. Now, just did a simple $3.2 million per year number leads to about an impact of 5 to 6% of the company's annual revenues. Will we see a reaction? Let's wait and watch. So that's to be monitored. We will, of course, watch out for the defense names as well. Like we said yesterday, yesterday was a big day for defense. And look at all of these stocks which did well, right? Because of the warship getting commissioned, maybe. I could think of that as being only possible reason. But just look at the kind of gains that happened to a Mazgon, to a BDL, Cochin Shipyard, some very strong movers in trade yesterday on the defense side. So watch out for each of these in the session today. Some delivery data before we get to the brokerage calls and stocks which had some interesting delivery. And mind you, viewers, that the delivery numbers will be a lot lower than what happens usually because the volumes are a bit thinner currently. But within that ecosystem, therefore, 2x or 3x volumes are important to monitor. So Banco Products was up about 5%. Volumes marked for delivery versus a 5-day average, about 2 times. Select Energy, 5.5%, 2.2 times the volumes marked for delivery. Delivery volumes, that is. Lakshmi Cotspin is the third one. Big mover yesterday, 3.8 times delivery volumes. 5 Paisa. Now, this one has finally moved. We've seen a clutch of other brokerage stocks do really well. 5 Paisa is not as, how do I say, in terms of multiples, not very expensive relative to any of the others. But remember, 5 Paisa is largely a broking platform versus Angel having moved to wealth management, Anandati being a pure play wealth management firm. So therefore, multiples will be lower. But we're seeing 5 Paisa now starting to make some strong moves, and yesterday was a big day, 7.5%, and volumes and mark for delivery much higher. Also watch out for a small stock called IRM Energy. Don't quite know what the business is, to be honest, but it saw some interesting delivery based buying. And just that one brokerage call, which I thought was very interesting amongst many others, was MK on Tejas Networks. We'll talk about it in detail, I'm sure, on the show. But guys, interesting because Tejas Networks has done really well post the change of ownership, if you will. But more importantly, in the MK note, while everything else notwithstanding, if they do what MK believes the stock will do by FY25, which they forecast it to be peak revenue, by the way, the stock is still available at 10 times. That's not very expensive.
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Delving into that and speaking to the management, figuring out what their plans are.
Hopefully we get them as well, yes.
Just very quick word on Dish TV. I don't know if you track this one closely. It's a very small counter, but worth the mention because this one's an interesting one. Shareholders of Dish TV, I believe, have rejected the candidature of its remaining 4 independent directors. Now, this is interesting because this is a very rare instance where a listed entity itself is now found without a functional board of directors. So the stock will get trashed in today's day of trade. Important because this could also be a regulatory issue that might come up with the exchanges or, of course, with the regulator itself. But very rare where you actually find a company without a functional board in terms of activity.
Well, that's definitely a story that needs to be followed. Just before we wrap up trade setup, the new listings, because this is just the season for IPOs.
You bet.
So Happy Forgings, it's an engineering company, issue price of 850. It's a 1,008 crore IPO, which was subscribed 82 times. That will list today. Credo Brands Marketing, they sell that Mufti brand. It's a men's apparel company and has an issue price of 280 rupees. It's a 549 crore IPO, subscribed 51 times, and RBZ Jewelers had an issue price of 100 rupees, 100 crore IPO, subscribed 16.8 times. After how Moti Sons debuted yesterday, RBZ one to watch out for.
Most certainly. I mean, and it'll be interesting to see what happens at that as well. Okay, have we missed anything? I was just trying to see before we get to editor's cut. I'm sure we missed something because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
But just those initiating coverage reports. So Equirius on Alchem Labs, target of 6295. Equirius on Protein, a target price of 1,500, and we've spoken about MK on Tejas Network, so that's...
And just a quick mention on the macros, not that this will have any sort of big market movement as such, but definitely a news point that you want to keep in mind and take note of. India's current account deficit narrows to $8.3 billion in the July to September quarter. Now, why this is important? Because this is the very first time we've actually seen it shrink almost half from the start of this year. Economists do believe that this will widen going in the next couple of quarters, but worth the point, we'll try and connect with an economist through the day to get an understanding of what the implications of this are on our macros.
Oh, big time. And if the predictions of CAD neutrality turn out to be true, then it's a trajectory worth noticing.
I'm a little skeptical. We're far away, but let's see.
I have no view on this. I'm just seeing what the economists have been saying, but let's wait and watch. But anyways, let's wrap it up on trade setup at least and move on to the editor's cut. And Alex, what are we talking about today?
Well, it is one stock we're talking about today, Niraj. And by the way, thanks so much for joining in to Editor's Cut. This is where we delve a little deeper into the big headline and get you actionable insight. We're talking about Adani Green today and the fact that the promoters are going to be infusing as much as 9,350 crore rupees, not an amount of money to sneeze at. Why is this significant, though? What is it going to be used for? And how do you look at Adani Green from this point? Gentlemen, what I was thinking about, and I was looking at the price of Adani Green, and if you look at just the year-to-date performance and you look at a point-to-point movement, you may not make a big deal out of it. It is about 14% lower from the start of the year. But from the low point, it has more than tripled. So why is it significant that the promoters are putting money in at this level? Sajid?
It's... I think it's the kind of faith that they have in the business, which is the reason why they are investing now over 9,000 crores. And Niraj will come in from an investor perspective, because we've seen in the last couple of months we saw GQG entering into some of the Adani companies, including Adani Enterprises. It came at a price of 504, and then it came again at 920 in June.
This is GQG.
This is GQG, and then followed by Qatar Investment Authority coming at 920 again in the month of August. So for the investors who entered at the low point, which was around 468 or so in February, it's a multi-bagger for them in that sense, right, Niraj?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and no. I mean, so one thing. So just before I get to what it. I mean, from an investing perspective, what does it sound like? Sajid, very unwell Sajid, by the way. Yeah. So I think he's freezing within the jacket as well. But Sajid, it's in the air, so take heart from that. But just the point about how the equity fundraise is not the only one that they have done.
That's right. When $3 billion they've raised in 1 month, that speaks volumes about the capability of the group to raise funds and go again back into the aggressive plan of achieving 45 gigawatts for the green energy part of it. There are other also which is there. They have a total plan of nearly $100 billion over the next 10 years, which is coming in. But green energy, $45 billion, 45 gigawatts is the target there, and they've been able to raise $3 billion, 1.12 where the promoters are putting in money through warrants. There is $300 million which is coming as part of the Total JV, where the JV is going to put up nearly 1,050 megawatts of green energy, which includes wind and solar and others. And then they have been able to access the international markets, which almost slowed down for them after the report in January, with $1.4 billion investment or debt investments being raised from 8 international banks. So $3 billion for a company which at the beginning of the year was going through a big onslaught because of the kind of report and the shorts that were building up, and coming back on a big scale with promoters putting in money at 1480, which is almost the same price as Jan 27 price.
Yeah. How much of that is going to be used for debt repayments? So, and they've stated very clearly in the release that this is going to be used for debt repayments.
So, so I think here they have been ahead of the curve. Going into 2024, investors would have again started asking the question about the debt repayment issue, which is going to come in September 24. $750 million holdco company bonds, which are getting matured. They've taken the plunge now to put in money, and I'm sure that it's a warrant which has to be converted within the next 18 months, so the money comes within 18 months. But it will happen before September, because $750 million is what they want to pay off in the holdco bonds at least. Followed by invest nearly 25% of the issue of 2,800 odd crores for investment into various subsidiaries for the projects, and 2,700 odd crores for general corporate purposes. But the important thing is that we've seen many companies, investors raising question about the ability and cash flows to pay off foreign bonds. Here they have already put in the foot in the game, saying that okay, we are going to raise it upfront, keep the powder dry, and we're going to pay off come early to 2024.
Now, Alex, you and Sajid mentioned about investor approach, right? Sajid didn't have the leeway. I had the leeway of talking to people post-market hours yesterday to try and understand, what this could be signaling. And there's something that me and Sajid spoke about yesterday and out there on social media as well, about what is the signaling from something like this. We know that the first half of the calendar, there were issues on funding, both on the debt side, as well as the promoters had to sell some stake, or promoters sold some stake, arguably to raise liquidity at their end too, right? Because that's when you presume promoters would sell stake, because they would want the liquidity. The fact that all of that seems to have turned around in the last quarter, and turned around very quickly, I might add, because they managed to raise the debt that Sajid was talking about. And we're talking only about Adani Green right now. Let's not widen the sphere on everything else. But the signaling is from a group perspective, because I think it will be taken well from a group perspective. Yesterday we saw Adani Enterprises, by the way, also rise in the last 20 minutes that Adani Green went up because of this. But the signaling is twofold. One, that the promoters are not putting in chop change to work. It's
Sizable,
9,000 crore rupees via warrants that they have committed to, which shows that the promoter entity seems to be sanguine about the liquidity at their end, part one. And of course, confident in the business prospects, goes without saying, part one. Part two, that the fact that they've been able to raise the debt, which was always a question mark. Okay, what will happen if, whether QIPs or etc. get matured? Yes, but what about debt? In such businesses, infrastructure, which is such a debt-heavy business, any which ways, it has to be looked at it, typically 70, 30, 80, 20 equity debt, right?
Yes.
Or debt equity as the case may be. The fact that they've been able to do that as well, and it'll be lovely at some point of time to understand from Sajid, or if we get to talk to the management about whether the war chest that they've gotten now, does it augur well for them, both from a debt repayment as well as execution of the project's perspectives for how many years now? Now, if they have got enough ammo to serve them well for the next X number of quarters or years, then that is a big shot in the arm for a business like green energy.
I've been speaking to some of the people in the trade, and the murmurs were about, okay, we've seen a run-up of Adani Green from 468 lows to almost 1600 plus, yesterday. But going into 2024, there will be a big repayment which is going to come in of $750 million. Does it have the cash flows to do it? The promoters have put in the foot and said, we have the money and we're going
that's
to
the
put
point.
it.
The signaling from this, aside of the money, of course, that comes in, very important, but the signaling is important.
So what Sajid is pointing out, half of the money that is being pumped in is likely going to go towards the repayment of this.
The EGM notice says that over 4,800 crores is going to be put to pay off bonds and interest payment of holdco bonds which are maturing in September 2024.
I dare say, we should give out the standard disclaimers that they own NDTV, of course, and I'm sure, Alex, you will. But I dare say that this keeps not just Adani Green, but the group stocks in focus. We're not saying this is a fundamental event for the group at large, but for Adani Green it is. But it definitely keeps Adani Green and some of the other group stocks in focus.
Not just that, if you're going to be dependent on foreign borrowing, this is a big signal to all the international banks where you're reaching out for funding.
The ability to repay on time and consistently. The disclaimer that Niraj was pointing out, this is NDTV Profit. It is part of the NDTV group, which is owned by Adani Media Enterprises. We have to slip into a very quick break. Do stay tuned. Lots more to tell you about before the start of trade. And this is NDTV Profit.
Welcome back. You're watching India Market Open. Let's take a quick look at the top headlines at this hour. The S&P 500 has touched its highest intraday level since January 2022. It's closed just about 0.5% away from all-time high marks. All the benchmarks, in fact, in the U.S. have ended the day in the green. India's current account deficit narrows to 1% of the GDP in the second quarter. Lower merchandise trade and growth in service exports help soften the deficit. Adani Group promoters look to infuse 9,350 crores into Adani Green. The funds will be used to deleverage and to fund a massive capex plan. And tensions in the Red Sea flare up again, with Houthis launching fresh attacks. Oil climbs over 2%, touching its highest this month before retreating. The rupee gets recognition. India makes its first ever rupee payment for import of oil from UAE. So those were the top headlines at this hour. Let's go across now to Samina, though, to take a look at what's happening on the derivatives end of it.
Thanks, Tamanna. It was an interesting day of trade yesterday. We started off fairly quiet on the Nifty 50, but finally went home with pretty good gains to close the day of trading yesterday. A couple of things that are worth noting is that the Nifty has regained almost 300 points in the last 3 trading days. Remember, we made a recent high of 21,593 before we saw that fall on Wednesday. All those losses have now been recouped in trade over the last 3 days. Well, just take you through where the activity was. That's pretty much where we closed out yesterday at 0.5% high on the Nifty 50, 21,441. It was not the day's high point, but nevertheless closing close to the day's highest point. Open interest saw a decline, and you also saw the Nifty 50 December futures premium at about 30.95, which is slightly lower. So the premium was actually reduced from 52 to about 30.95 in yesterday's day of trade. That, of course, is the Nifty 50. Let's take a look at what's happening across Bank Nifty. Pretty much in line with what the index did in yesterday's trade. Bank Nifty gave its support yesterday. This comes in after we saw a sharp decline on Bank Nifty in trade on Friday. Open interest there as well was, of course, lower by 18%, while the premium has stayed at about 100 points, slightly higher than what we saw in Friday's close. That's the picture across Nifty 50. Put writers were very active across 21,440 levels. We saw them active in levels of 21,300 and 21,350, which means that those are going to be very important level of support coming in for the Nifty on the downside. Call writing, on the other hand, was seen at levels of 21,500, 21,550, indicating key resistance for the Nifty. So range-bound trade is what we're expecting. Remember, we are eyeing expiry. The markets and the participants expect an expiry anywhere in the range of 21,350 on the downside and 21,550 on the upside. With regard to Bank Nifty, put writing was aggressively seen at 47,500, which will act as a key level of support. On the upside, of course, 48,000 and 48,250 is where we saw call writing taking place, indicating that there should be a range-bound move, and 48,000 will continue to act as a key level of resistance for Bank Nifty. Well, that's pretty much what the picture looked like. Stocks like Aarti Industries, Tata Communication, also saw high, sort of long built-up positions. But we've got with us Jay Patel, who joins in with his F&O cues. Jay, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Jay, it was an interesting day of trade yesterday. We've managed to recover all our losses from Wednesday's fall in kissing distance of 21,593 now, which was, of course, the recent high made on the index. How would you trade the Nifty? How are you reading the data that we're seeing, where there is put activity at levels of 21,350, but on the upside, I believe 21,600 remains a crucial level of resistance on the index?
So good morning, everyone. So yesterday we saw Nifty entering to its resistance zone, particularly after crossing for 21,450 levels in yesterday's trade. So particularly, I believe since we are near expiry, and particularly 21,550 to 600 zones is a strong resistance area. So I believe today Nifty can climb to around 21,550 zones. Also, we saw strong OI built up at around 21,500 and 600 subsequently. Also, there was a surprising factor, particularly at 22,000. The OI addition was seen as around 1.25 crore quantity. So definitely that was a surprising factor. And also we saw short covering rally. I believe today the rally can continue. The momentum can build up after crossing 21,500 zones. But the interesting point in today's trade would be 21,550 zones. If we are able to manage and sustain above that level, we can see a strong rally towards 21,700 levels in today's trade only, because I believe there is there are many shorts built up around at that level 21,500 and 600 levels, so they can move for a short covering really. But we need to be prepared since VIX is indicating a strong momentum and strong volatility going further. So I believe you should be cautious in Nifties and particularly Bank Nifty in today's trade.
Really agree. VIX jumped about 7% in trade yesterday. But let's talk about Bank Nifty, Jay. Bank Nifty December futures have added 2.5% in OI. The current rollover, I believe, stands at about 51 odd percent. And the put call ratio has also gone up slightly from 1.18 to 1.23. Now, Bank Nifty has done the heavy lifting in the December series. 48,000 in sight over the next 2 days as we look at Bank Nifty's monthly expiry.
So definitely we can expect 48,000 in today's trade, particularly if we see Kotak Mahindra Bank, HDFC Bank, and even some of the large companies, IndusLand and ICICI. We can see breakout zones. They are nearing breakout zones. So particularly Kotak Mahindra Bank yesterday displayed strong momentum, and I believe Bank Nifty can inch further highs. Also, this is particularly backed by long and short ratios by FIIs. FIIs are currently 65% on long side. So particularly they historically they are around 70% when market starts to saw long build up. So particularly I believe there is a more room for upside momentum, particularly in today's trade. Also, I believe 48,300 would be something can act as a resistance in today's trade, and I think Bank Nifty could be something interesting in today's trade, particularly if it crosses and manages above 47,900 zones. Also, VIX, as we told, VIX also indicates something something is building up on the Bank Nifty side. Particularly if we see call data 48,000, 49,000 and 50,000, the psychological levels which always acts as resistance and supports for Bank Nifty. So there are some position call writers position building up on that particular front. So Bank Nifty would be something interesting in today's trade, and we should be watchful out. Do not short Nifty or Bank Nifty in today's trade. Keep holding your long position, and I believe viewers can particularly take these notes. They cannot short Nifty and Bank Nifty in today's trade because wide interest is particularly very high on long side.
So don't short the Nifty or Bank Nifty. Hold on to your long positions. That's, of course, Jay's view on Nifty and Bank Nifty. Stocks like Aarti Industries, NMDC, Tata Chemicals, BEL and Laurus Labs witnessed heavy addition of long positions. And Jay, I believe you've got a long call on Aarti Industries.
Absolutely. So particularly I'm long on Aarti Industries, particularly after it at its all-time high levels. On a weekly chart, we see the stock is holding above its 200 and 100-day exponential moving averages, and we saw strong volume build-up and strong candle pattern in yesterday's trade. So I believe the 620 call option on Aarti Industries can be something which we can see as a January's future. So for January's expiry, Aarti Industries 620 strike price call option, we can buy at around 42 levels. I believe it can go above 70 zones. So 70 would be a first target and 72, 73 would be a second target. Aarti Industries, we can also keep a stop loss at around 30 levels. I believe we can see a new highs coming up in this stock, particularly the structure has seen a strong positive build-up. Also, the in January, we can expect 742 hit at around in January levels for Aarti Industries. So Aarti Industries would be something I'm very bullish, and also we saw a long build-up in this stock yesterday's trade.
Right. What about Lupin, Jay? Yesterday we saw an intraday low of 876. It made a high of 894, which is where it went home and trade yesterday. Any sort of upside here anticipated on Lupin? Would you trade this count at all?
So definitely, if we look at the Lupin's chart on particularly monthly chart, we can see the stock is moving above its 2018 zones, particularly yesterday's trade. The RSI is very supportive. We saw positive divergence, and also the breakout zones was around 1241, and we were able to sustain that level absolutely well. volume has been seen a strong build up, particularly. So I am very bullish about this counter, particularly pharma space also. So we can buy Lupin's 1290 call option that is out of the money currently, but I believe in the January's expiry we can see a strong momentum in this stock. Particularly, it would be trading above 1,400 zones, I believe, in January session. So currently we can buy 1290 strike price call option at 55 zones. The target would be 115, which is almost which is double the price, and also the stop loss can be kept at 10 rupees. So I believe there will be strong momentum going further in Lupin Pharma.
Indeed, 1308, remember that's the 52-week high on Lupin. Jay, of course, constructive on Lupin for the Jan series as well. And so he believes a positive bullish call coming in on Lupin, on Aarti Industries too. Well, Tamanna, Niraj, that's it from the F&O side of things. Back to you.
Oh, well, absolutely. Thank you for that, Samina. But a number of stocks in focus today. And let me quickly go across to Mahima first, who's telling us about which are the buzzing counters we need to watch out for.
Right, Tamanna. So I have 4 stocks on my radar today. The first one is Kansai Nerolac, where the company is set to sell its land in Lower Parel. In August 2022, the board had approved that it will sell off lands that are not in use and use that sale proceeds for business purposes. After that, around July 2023, Nerolac also sold its land in Thane for 671 crores. Now, if we talk about the stock performance, the stock has not performed much in this year. The YTD returns are hardly 11%, and the analyst recommendations also for the stock are pretty mixed. 11 say buy, 3 say hold, and 6 say sell. The next stock on my radar today is Cupid Limited, where Halvasia Group is set to acquire additional 26% stake for 113 crore via open offer. Halvasia Group already holds approximately 41% stake in Cupid, and now it is set to acquire another 26% stake. If we talk about the stock performance of this company, the stock has given stellar returns this year. The YTD returns of these stocks are approximately 260%. So clearly the stock has been a multi-bagger for this year. The next 2 stocks to watch out for will be Gandhar Oil and Tata Technology, because today 50% share of anchor investor's lock-in period ends today. And if we talk about Tata Technology, the Tata Technology was listed at a premium of 140%. And at present, since the listing, it has gained over only 0.23%. Approximately 79 lakhs will be open for sale today, and for Gandhar Oil, approximately 44 lakhs shares will be open for trade today. If we talk about the listing gains, it was listed at a premium of 65%. However, since the listing date up till yesterday, the stock has lost 6%. So overall, if we see, since the anchor investor lock-in ends today, we'll be seeing buzzing volumes of trade in these 2 stocks, and we'll be seeing some stock price movements as well.
All right, thank you for that, Mahima there, and quite a list over there. But I just want to shift focus to Tejas Networks. MK has initiated coverage on the stock, expecting 30,000 crore revenue over the next 5 years. Varsha is joining us to talk us through why the optimism, and we'll just get to her in a bit on that.
But you know, that note is interesting simply because of the fact that what MK... amongst other things that MK is saying, and I'm sure Varsha will pick it up, but they are citing very strong revenue growth for the next 2 years, peaking in FY25, and then a crash coming in FY26. But on FY25 numbers, if they manage to do it, and then if the management has some other plans for FY26, which we'll try and get from the management at some point of time in the next few days, then it'll be amazing, because based on the numbers that MK is forecasting, and if Varsha is here, we should go to her, but it doesn't seem to be that expensive a stock.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to that story in just a bit, but I also want to focus on the whole clutch of news coming in on Adani stocks this morning. And I know you did a very detailed editor's cut on Adani Green, but there's Adani Ports as well with news coming in. The broad theme over here, and something that you guys were talking about, Niraj, Samina, come in, is what a year it has been, with standard disclosures and disclaimers as well. What a year it has been for the group companies coming back, and how that will play out. And especially with Adani Greens, I think the focus on the renewables piece is a big one to look at that entire space.
Some of the businesses are are terrific. I mean, and don't want to shy away from saying this, but Adani ports, about a third of the port capacity. You believe India as an economy is going from 4 trillion to 25 trillion at some point of time. How is the inflow of goods and services going to take place without using port services? So anything in the port business which is well managed, the great stuff there. Adani Enterprises, amongst all the other things, has the airport business as well. Between Adani, somebody was telling me between Adani Airports and GMR Airports, that's about a 60% market share that they have. So that those two set of businesses pretty strong there too. And for the Adani Group, then what's happening on green energy, what's happening on cement with Ambuja and ACC looks pretty solid.
Niraj, Tamanna, and what's going to be very interesting as well, these stocks have had a fantastic run in the last couple of weeks. A lot of these passive mutual funds, the Nifty 50 or the Nifty Next 50 have underperformed in the first half of the year, largely because of the way Adani stocks were behaving. What will be very interesting to now go out and pick up is how some of these passive Nifty Next 50 funds have done because of the weightage some of these Adani counters have on the Next 50 counters and the reaction, because if these stocks have done well, these funds will also have outperformed substantially well. So big positive even for retail investors who want just trading counters like Adani.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's get back to Varsha, who's giving us more details on that note from MK on Tejas Networks. Yes, Varsha.
Good morning. So, as you rightly said, so MK has initiated coverage on Tejas network. Now, they've rated buy with a target price of almost 1,050. Now, they expect Tejas to execute order of almost 29,000 crore over FY24-28. Now, Tejas has an order book of almost 9,000 crores as on Q2 FY24 end, and further, MK expects Tejas bagging some more POs in the next 2 years. Also, if you see, they expect to generate almost 30,000 crore revenue over FY24 to 28 with a peak revenue of almost 10,000 crores in FY25. Now, this revenue increase is led by BSNL and BharatNet projects, and Tejas is expected to benefit from your government emphasis on domestic manufacturing. Then you've got PLI scheme and also large spends on BSNL and BharatNet and railways. And there's also this global move to replace Chinese telecom equipment, which Tejas will also get benefit from. And also there's benefit from cost competitive R&D versus peers and asset-light model, and CEO's US-based experience, which will actually help Tejas to build on revenue. And lastly, MK expects margins of almost 20% over FY25 to 28 as the scale picks up.
Thank you for that, Varsha, there on Tejas Networks. Pankaj, Pandey and Chandan Taparia are joining us now on the show. Very good morning to you. And thank you for speaking with us this morning on NDTV Profit. Let me get a quick word first, opening comments from Pankaj on how you're looking at the trading day. Last few sessions, a handful of sessions left in 2023. And what is going to be your take today?
So hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. I think last few days we've seen market sort of doing well. Especially what we have seen is that if the first half of December month is not really sort of fruitful for the market, the second half usually does well for the market. And I think global cues or domestic cues, if you sort of largely look at, are looking quite good for the markets. And our sense is that this positive momentum is going to sort of sustain the market, probably to levels like, say, 22,200. Obviously, you'll have corrections in between, but in general, we expect markets to sort of keep doing well for the next 1 month or so, with a target, like I mentioned, of 22,200. So I think overall, this good run is expected to be sustained.
Right. Well, there has been an ammonia gas leak. This flashes on your screen in Chennai. I will wait for more details to come up on that. But TN Maritime Board, TN Pollution, people in surrounding have complained of breathlessness, I believe, following this gas leak, which has been identified. We'll try and get more details on this news flow. But Niraj, Tamanna, anything on this one? This is International has told the Tamil Nadu government that they will identify and rectify this gas leak. But it's Coromandel International that we will have to watch out for. Yeah. Beyond the stock reaction, of course, it is a health hazard.
Absolutely.
And has a bigger impact on the larger population in TN that we're talking about?
So this has taken place on the 26th, and there is a report which has come in from the Joint Commissioner of Police as well, who has said no need to panic, it's stabilized, no more ammonia leak at Ennore. People are assured and are back home. Medical and police teams present. So those are some of the details coming in on what has happened. Of course, we'll look at the stock and look at what story is developing there, and we'll try and get a report up as soon as possible as well.
I believe 5.
No, I'm just saying hopefully the health hazard is lower.
5 people have been hospitalized. That's
so hopefully it's contained. And just now, separating the human angle from the economic angle, let's see if Coromandel International sees some impact on that one as well. Pankaj, do you reckon something like this could impact Coromandel? Maybe, I mean, the humanitarian angle is separate, but purely from what it does to a business like Coromandel and the sentiment thereof.
Well, Niraj, definitely, sentimentally, it could be sort of negative. We don't know whether this will follow a sort of a shutdown in the plant for some period of time, and obviously that will have business implications. But we have been liking this company largely because of the fact that now on the fertilizer side, you have new business being sort of coming up in terms of drones being used to sort of spray fertilizers. I think that's a sort of upcoming segment, and Coromandel is at the forefront of it, besides some other names. And this is one space where overall last 1 or 2 years, things have not really been great. So our sense is that while there could be a short-term impact, but structurally, we continue to like this stock.
We also have with us Chandan, who's joining in with his, reading of the markets on the technical and derivative side. Morning, Chandan. Thanks for joining us. Chandan, let's start by talking about the Nifty. We've seen activity around levels of 21,350, 21,400 in terms of put writing. And of course, on the resistance side, 21,600 will act as a key level of resistance for the markets. Wix had jumped 7%. PCR as well has seen some movement. How would you play the Nifty today? Of course, indicating to a gap up start, but any room to initiate fresh longs, maybe just for the next couple of days, or anything on the option side?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So we are ending the 2023 and Nifty is already up by around 18%. So net to net, we have seen decent run up in the market, but from last couple of days, it has been consolidating with higher market base. We have noticed that just 4 or 5 days back, market witnessed a selling pressure from higher levels, but somehow the supply of that selling is being absorbed and market is making the base to start the next leg of rally. If you look at the data setup, put call ratio is again holding. Volatility has jumped up. So there are multiple reasons that why India VIX moved up, even the market is moving up. Usually the VIX and market has negative correlation by 85-87%. But in last 3 days, the volatility has spiked by around 15% at the same time when market is slightly moving up. So the reason behind jump in the VIX is because of the jump in the call OI. So IV is equal to call Y and put Y, and call writers are being tripped. All the call writers which are continuously selling the call, they are being forced to out from the system, and that is the reason that why IV inching up. But yes, VIX's eyes or some sort of swings could be there in the market. So FI long short ratio is again back to 65%. So if I combine all the internal and come up with the view, then I believe that till it holds about 21,250, 21,300, market has positive stance. Utilize any small decline as a buying opportunity, and market has potential to move by 21,600 and positionally towards 22,200 zone in next couple of days going forward.
Chandan, you sound quite optimistic here. Also, quickly on Bank Nifty, it's had a good run in December. 2,200 points added on Bank Nifty, 7% gain. It's actually behaved quite well yesterday. But around levels of 48,000 is where we start seeing the struggle on Bank Nifty. What is the trade for Bank Nifty, and any other stock-specific trades that you have for today?
Yeah, so like Bank Nifty remained underperformed in the entire year. When Nifty is up by 18%, Bank Nifty just rallied by 11%, and major contribution came in just last 3-4 weeks when it rallied by around 5,000 points. But now again it got stuck, but multiple supports are also visible at 47,000. So we believe that buy on decline could be there. 47,000 is the major support, and if it manages to hold the same, we believe decline could be bought, and it has potential to revisit the recent lifetime high of 48,219 and 48,500 levels. But yes, consolidating. So we'll go with buy on decline stance in the Bank Nifty index. Now looking at the stocks, we are positive on the defense related counter. In fact, we have positive on the entire Nifty CPSE index. Most of the central public sector enterprises are likely to do well. And here we are recommended to buy on HL, one of the preferred pick we have. Consolidation of last 10 days is getting over, starting the next leg of rally. So recommended to buy on HL with support of 2760. And this stock can head towards 2950 level. Second trading idea, there is buy on NMDC. We are positive on the metal mining counter, whether you talk about FNO, non-FNO, whether NMDC or NLC or other names. So positive on NMDC, recommending to buy with support of 195. And here we have target towards 210, 212 levels.
Yeah, Chandan, that's fantastic. Those are trading calls coming in from Chandan and his call on the Nifty and Bank Nifty. We'll slip in a quick break. We've got 5 minutes as we gear up for pre-open trade. Lots of action on the other side, so stay tuned.
Back with in the market open. We have about a minute and a half left. So before we go to our guests, let's get in one quick view on a note that has come in from Equirius Securities. They've initiated coverage with a long rating on Protea and EGOV. Mahika Johnson with the rationale. Mahika.
Yes, so it's a long rating at a target price of 1,500 rupees, which implies a 24% upside to the current market price. Now, Equirius sees Protein as a play on the rapid digital transformation in India. Protein has a very well 2/3 market share in the PAN card issuance segment. It's also been diversifying into new segments like healthcare, e-commerce, education on the open digital ecosystems, and its key founding shareholder has also been a key contributor to the open network for digital commerce. So the brokerage expects the new business, the cloud and the international expansion to drive further growth. It expects a revenue CAGR of 26% over FY23 to FY26 and a net profit CAGR of 28% for the same time period. It also forecasts the company's EBITDA margins to touch 20.9% in FY26 versus the 15.9% in FY23, and this is mainly on the back of the revenue share of the lowest EBITDA margin business of the company, which is the PAN services, and that share has been declining. The brokerage is currently betting on the strong management, the strong free cash flow record of the company, and the limited revenue share that the company has from the government itself.
Ika, thanks a lot for that. So we'll watch out for Protea and EGOV, and we'll talk to Pankaj about this. I don't know if he has a view there, but we'll do that in a moment. But just about 10 seconds left for the pre-open session to begin. Just mark the customary thing out there. Let's wait and watch. We're likely to start off flattish in the session today as well. I mean, a few points here and there notwithstanding. The pre-open session may be all over the place though. Let's wait and watch, and let's give these rates a chance to settle. One key eye out for Wipro today, because despite the denial from the company, the stock went up. So 2 days on a trot, that stock has gone up and kept Nifty IT in the hunt. So we'll keep an eye out for Nifty IT and Wipro, and we'll watch out for banks as well. Does 47,500 hold out like a line in the sand? I think that would be a key thing. But we're talking about a clutch of stocks. Just wondering, Pankaj, do you have any coverage on this company, Protean, EGOV?
So sorry,
no problem.
Don't have a coverage on this.
Completely fine. Pankaj, let's talk about something that was very active yesterday. And we're seeing, and I would love both Chandan and Pankaj to comment, but first, fundamentally, Pankaj, to you. Chemicals and API companies. Yesterday was a big day, second day or a third day on a trot, wherein we saw Divi's, Laurus and the others do well. And we've also seen the spec chem companies come back with a bang. The Alkyl Amines, Balaji Amines, you saw Fine Organics, etc. Do you have coverage here, Pankaj? Do you like any of them fundamentally?
So, Niraj, when you sort of look at some of these names, I think last a few quarters has been quite challenging, even for a big company like, say, Divi's. The gross margins had sort of dipped from, say, 60-odd% to 50-odd%. And largely because also the fact that the raw material prices had gone up, and then you had higher base of COVID. So that sort of had a fair share of impact in terms of the numbers, what you see. But our sense is that in the next quarter or two, largely you would see things sort of normalizing. And this is one space which hasn't really done much from a price performance perspective. And we have been seeing a pattern in the market that whatever has been sort of laggard is getting picked up slightly ahead of time. And I think pharma and chemicals is one space, be it API players or other segments. I think there things have been good. What we are structurally liking is more of a CDMO contract manufacturing players like, say, Divi's, because the inquiries are sort of getting louder, and our sense is that going forward, some of these names should do a lot more better than whatever numbers we have seen in the recent past.
And then, CDMO seems to be a big thing. Sajal Kapoor had spoken to us earlier as well. He tracks pharma very closely about what the promise in CDMO is. Vikas Khemani that day was also talking about how some of the CDMO players could be 4 or 5 times their current size currently. Now, Chandan, on the derivative side, we've seen long build-up in the ones like Divi's, for example, in trade yesterday. Some of the chemical names like Aarti, you may be tracking the charts as well. Which one looks the most promising here?
Yeah, so like both the sector are showing strength, whether you talk about pharma, Divi's, and whether you look at all the chemical name, including Aarti, SRF, Deepak Nitride, and also. First, let me talk about Divi's name. We have seen good recovery in the counter. And in fact, from last couple of days, selective pharma stocks are doing well. And interestingly, we have seen a consolidation breakout. A small follow-up can drive the stock to us 5 to 8% higher from current levels. Earlier, it was finding hurdle near 3,800. 3820 zone. That hurdle decisively surpassed. So I believe that now with support of 3780, one can look for an upside move towards 4,000 in Divi's. If you look at the Aarti industry or Deepak Nitride, positive view here. Aarti industry, one can continue with long position with support of 620. Here we have target towards 655. Deepak also we like. Deepak Nitride has seen good run up, major breakout on the daily weekly chart. So one can buy this stock with support of 2410. It can head towards 2550 kind of level. So positive view in most of the API pharma name and fertilizer chemical name. So one can continue to play the ride, which is happening right now for next couple of days.
Chandan, any views on Bajaj Finance? And I'm going to come to Pankaj on it in a bit as well. Bajaj Finance, Bajaj Finserv, RBL, all three impacted by news coming in yesterday on issues with their co-branded credit cards. But on the charts, do you see any opportunities in Bajaj Finance? At least in pre-open, it's seeing some recovery, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Bajaj Finance already making lower top, lower bottom from last 4 weeks, 4 trading days from last 2 weeks. It has gone below its key moving averages, and especially when Nifty is holding, these stocks are not supporting, and there is a reason that I'll avoid these names. If there is any bounce, I don't think that bounce will be hold. Bounce could be again sold. So looking at the price setup and the derivatives data, both these two names are showing some sort of kept upside. So either we'll avoid or look for some bounce in counter. Similarly, in RBL Bank, we have seen negative divergence. Yesterday, we have seen decent volume with decline, which is giving the breakdown sort of concept. So I think it can dip to us 260. So not positive on these three names. In fact, we'll go with the contra or can buy put or sell future, looking at the price structure in these names.
Right. Pankaj, very quickly, you want to comment on some of those defense stocks? Shipbuilders specifically had a pretty solid run in trade yesterday. So your Mazgaon Docks, BEL, Bharat Dynamics, Hindustan Aeronautics, have all, Cochin Shipyard, all ran up in trade yesterday. This morning indicating to a fairly positive, subdued to positive start. Any of the defense names I just named, you would consider adding at this stage?
So when you sort of look at the price performance has been really good for most of the counters. I think you have a good tailwind for these stocks to sort of do well. I mean, to give you some color, what we have seen is that the acceptance of necessity by Defence Acquisition Council has been given for 5.4 lakh crore kind of a project. And we have seen order inflows in excess of around 1 lakh crores. All these companies are sitting on a cumulative order book of 2.5 lakh crores. And our sense is that in the next 12 to 18 odd months, these projects which have been approved by Defence Acquisition Council, I think will get converted to orders. So obviously it's a big opportunity for all of them. What we are sort of liking is something like Bharat Electronics, because our sense is that the component or the electronic as a component will inch up from say 35-37 odd % to 40% plus. And what we are also sort of liking is Midhani. So this is one stock which has been sort of done well. Our sense is that this company, being a crucial supplier for some of the titanium alloys or other super alloys, I think we should see a decent back-ended growth. Last 3 years, the over top line, the growth has been single digits, which we expected to sort of get converted to double digits going forward. So while most of the stocks are structurally looking positive, I think Bharat Electronics and Midhani look attractive to us.
All right, I just want to quickly come in with this press release out by Coromandel on the gas leak that we've been reporting. So I'll just go through that, a bit of news coming in. So the press statement says, as part of routine operation, we noticed abnormality on the 26th of December at 23:30 hours, that means 11:30 last night, in the ammonia unloading sub-sea pipeline near shoreside outside the plant premises. Our standard operating procedure activated immediately, and we have isolated ammonia system facility and brought the situation to normalcy in the shortest time. During the process, few members of the local community expressed discomfort and were given medical attention immediately. All are safe and normalcy is restored. We have informed relevant authorities about the incident. Coromandel has always adhered to the highest safety standards and emergency response systems. So we have to see what kind of a reaction comes in, if any, but important that the local authorities and the commissioner, etc., have said that everyone is fine right now.
Yeah, that thankfully doesn't seem to be a very large incident. Yeah. The stock also very flat currently, so just that. Now the pre-open rates have settled. About 0.25% for the Nifty is what we're looking at. So 21,500. So very close to the levels or the highs clocked in Wednesday early trade. So keep that in mind. The Bank Nifty too giving company. What is not giving company, guys, is IT. Nifty IT seems to be starting off on a weak footing with both Infosys. Actually not, but Infosys and TCS both seem to be starting off on a weak note. Is it flattish? No, can't be. And TCS too, very, very flattish. So let's wait and watch if there is some bit of a pullback here. But Wipro is the exciting one, has been up 2 days on a trot now. Let's see if there is more in store. A bit of a pullback maybe for Wipro. Chandan, any thoughts on Wipro? Yesterday started off lower, but then did really well in trade too. Is there a trade here?
Yeah, so positive on the selective IT name, and Wipro is one of the strongest setup we have seen recently. However, if you look at the quarterly or half yearly, then other IT has performed well, but Wipro has bottomed out. The good part is respecting well to his 50-day exponential moving average. Supports are shifting higher. So I think positive bias can be played here. One can buy with support of 460. It can head towards 488, 490. So
The other stock, and we should mark the Adani Group stocks and see if there is follow-up traction in Adani Green in particular. So let's just mark that. Pre-open rates have settled now. Let's see if there is build-up there. Yes, indeed, more in store. 2.74% for Adani Green. Wonder if Adani Enterprises is doing that too. Adani Energy and Adani Port should also come up because there are two stocks in news. Adani Port in particular, the fundraise, 1,037, flattish. Adani Energy, 2.73% higher. So good moves there. Pankaj, any fundamental coverage on some of these names, particularly Adani Green, which was in news yesterday? And if not that, maybe Adani Energy or Adani Ports?
So what we track, Niraj, is Adani Ports and both the cement stocks, which is ACC and Ambuja combined. Now, Adani Port looks good to us because I think they've guided for some 370 to 390 million tons kind of a volume, and they are already sort of reached about 100 million tons. And our sense is that FY25, you'll see more of a normalization of EXIM volumes. So this company will benefit from it. And in case if they sort of increase the capex guidance of 4,000 to 5,000 odd crores because things are sort of getting better, I think this is one stock which we like. And between the cement duo, what we like more is ACC because the valuation gap is still quite large. I mean, Ambuja is trading at about 18 times EV by EBITDA, and whereas ACC is trading at about, I think, closer to 10 times. So you see a huge valuation gap there, and our sense is that cement is one space ideally which should witness improvement in EBITDA per ton going forward and closer to 1,000 rupees per ton, which is what the management has guided. So ACC looks relatively better compared to Ambuja.
Also, very quickly, Chandan, I want to come to you on some of these oil and gas names. So BPCL, IOC, HPCL are up anywhere in the range of 10 to 20% in the last couple of weeks. Now what we are seeing, stocks like ONGC and Oil India also do quite well. And there's activity on the long side, I believe, on these counters too. Any trades, any sort of strategy you'd be adopting for any of these oil and gas names?
Yeah, we have positive view on all these stocks. First, I'll talk about HPCL, Hindustan Petro. It seems that consolidation of last 16 days are getting over and it can commence the next leg of rally anytime. So one can continue to be with long position or can buy fresh with support of 373. It can head to us 402 kind of level. Positive on the IOC fresh breakout, continuously making higher tops, higher bottom on the weekly. So with support of 125, one can look up. One can go for an upside move to us 134. In non-FNO, we are positive on the Oil India. In fact, looking for 15 to 30% kind of move in the counter. So continuously making higher lows on the daily chart. One can buy with support of 370. Here we have target of 425. So positive on most of these names. And if I need to reply on ONGC, then fresh breakout is there. One can buy with support of 204. It can head to us 220. So positive on HPCL, IOC, Oil India for positional, and ONGC can see the intraday swing as well.
What would you do with some of these oil and gas names? The trading range, Pankaj, the trading range for crude is anywhere in the range of $81 to $85 a barrel now. How would you play the OMCs and how would you play the ONGC and Oil Indias? Would those be something you try and acquire for the next couple of months?
So I think on the oil marketing companies, what we have seen GRMs being quite good last quarter, and our sense is that GRMs are going to sort of sustain. So that leg of them is expected to keep doing well. I think on the marketing side, with break-even at $85, our sense is that with crude is still lower than that. Our sense is that the OMCs are likely to make marketing margins as well on both petrol and diesel. And this will sort of keep on varying between, say, 5 to 7 or probably 8 to 9 rupees per litre on both petrol and diesel, which was sort of missing a quarter before. But our sense is that while these stocks are quite attractive in terms of being available at single-digit multiples, we're never sure in terms of whether government, say, for example, on the marketing side, would look to sort of cut retail prices. So that might have an impact on the marketing margins. But what we like is more of, say, order of preference would be HPCL, BPCL, and IOC because HPCL has a higher slate for on the marketing side. So that looks attractive, but durability of these companies in terms of sustaining margins is still not. I'm not very sure.
Got it. Got it. Okay, Pankaj, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for taking the time out and being with us today on the show. Chandan, 10 seconds. Your top call for the day today. 10 seconds.
So I'll go with HAL and NMDC, and all marketing company can be seen. So these are the topics.
Okay, but HAL, fair call. Chandan, thanks for joining in today as well. But here's how the markets are starting off. So good go. Expected to be a good start. Let's see if we build on from there. 21,503 for the Nifty 50, 64 odd points, so 1/3%. The banks are giving company, which is a good part because I think the IT index would be flattish in the session today. The mid caps and small caps will come up on your screen next. I'm getting it wrong. IT2 started off well, so not a bad start really for the key indices. Mid caps about 0.5% higher, good show there, and small caps 0.65% higher. So the rally out here continues well into the year, and no matter what people are talking about small caps, they are continuing to rally very quickly. Bring up the heat map and see if there is something worth marking. Well, Adani Ent is up about 1%, so that's the top gainer on the index. Actually, Tata Motors is. Bajaj Finserv bounces back a little. UPL, Adani Ports. But yeah, the two names worth talking about: Adani Enterprises, Tata Motors, maybe Adani Port because of the news. IT is in the green, as you can see. Banks are not doing too badly. The only one sulking is Hero, and remember, this could also be because the stocks were up and about in trade yesterday. So net, a lot of green, very little red. Aside of that, not too much to talk about, but for the fact that it's a sea of green this morning. Tamanna.
A good day. It's looking like a good day, no doubt. And just look at that beautiful chart up there, nice and colorful, all in green. But a few stocks that we've been tracking on the show this morning, SJVN. Let's start with that. And we saw some sharp moves there pre-open. It's not looking bad at all. About 4% up right now as well. So the news there is they've bagged a 100 megawatt solar power project from Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam, which is why you're probably seeing some good moves there. But remember, public sector enterprises have been the flavor, and that continues. Vishnu Prakash R. Punglea has got LOAs for orders worth 899 crores. Wow, look at that stock. Up 9% nearly in trade, and we're going to be speaking with the management in just a few minutes from now, so stay tuned. Kansai Nerolac is another one that's on our radar, and we were talking about this morning on our watch list. The company will sell a land parcel in Lower Parel for 726 rupees. Real estate is hot, and Kansai Nerolac having a good day. I'm just going to recap the Adani pack altogether, and I know Niraj talked about enterprise and ports, but green 2.5% up. Ports will raise NCD, so that's up mildly, and Adani Energy Solutions is just the only one I'll pull up because they've signed a share purchase agreement with PFC Consulting. So let's see what Adani Energy Solutions is also doing. So that's one we can look at. The other two on my radar would be perhaps Bajaj Finance and RBL, just because of how they reacted. Bajaj Finance perhaps is having a more decent kind of a morning after yesterday. MS has said it's not going to impact them too much, and let's see if RBL is still getting beaten down today after all of that. No, some recovery in RBL as well. So all in all, looking good on this end. Any particular stocks that are on your radar this morning, Samina?
A couple of stocks that are worth a mention, Tamanna, that are actually moving in today's day of trade. So you mentioned a whole bunch of them, but just to add to the list, you've got Team Lease that is doing pretty well, 3.5% rally there. You've got cement counters that are also trading in positive territory. So apart from the likes of an ABB, the smaller ones like Ramco Cement also trading with gains of about 3% odd. Defense shipbuilders continue to gain in today's trade. So Mazagon Docks, Cochin Shipyard. Mazagon Docks, not seeing a big move there, but Cochin Shipyard on the other hand is trading with a gain of about 2% odd. You've also got metal counters. So SAIL is having a positive run, about 3.5% gains on SAIL is what you're seeing. Mastec, Indiabulls Housing, Tejas Network. Now that's worth a mention on back of those reports that we had this morning. Tejas Network report responding positively to that, up about 3% odd in trade. Those, of course, stocks that are gaining in trade. KPI Green, I'm going to mention that one. The stock had a good run yesterday, This morning, a massive cut coming in on KPI Green as we speak, 5% cut on KPI Green, making one of your top losers in the session today. Vedanta is also down 3.5%. Castrol India is looking weak. I'm sure HPCL, BPCL are also seeing some selling pressure on back of the way crude has been moving. So Aarti Industries, this was a stock that saw a heavy long addition in trade yesterday. We had our guest this morning, Jay, who also indicated a bullish call on Aarti Industries. So keep that on your radar. The stocks opened off slightly negative, but it'd be interesting to see how this plays out over the next few hours of trade.
Yeah, and let's quickly get in Mr. Sarfaraz Ahmed. He's CFO of Vishnu Prakash R. Punglia, joining us now for a quick conversation. That stock up in trade today on the back of news. They've received an LOA for orders worth 899 crores from Uttarakhand government. Mr. Ahmed, a very good morning to you. Thank you for speaking with us at NDTV Profit. Can you give us some more details of this order and what exactly is the timeline for this?
Good morning, ma'am. This order is of water supply project in Uttarakhand. There are we have got two LOA. One is 525 crores and other is 373 crores. And these timelines are 24 months.
All right. So you have in recent times also received LOAs for projects in Rajasthan, railway project, and one in Madhya Pradesh as well. Can you give us some details of these and where you are on execution?
We have got 634 crores in the MP and 174 crore order in Gujarat of railway project. And the timelines are 24 months and 18 months for the same. And we have on regular basis going through.
Sorry?
Hello.
Yes. All right.
Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can. Yes. Mr. Ahmed, can you give us an outlook on your order book right now? Now, you're getting all of these orders. We are going into election season. There is a big focus by the government on infra projects. Can you give us your outlook right now for how your order book will build out?
Yes, we have order book in the 30th September. As on 30th September, we have order book of 4,200 crores. And after these orders, it is built up, and due to election, there is a slight delay in payments and all that. But we have, as if you know, that we have 36 years of experience, and we have gone through about 7 to 8 cycles. Then we are familiar with that, and we are going through this project execution and expecting our order book up to 5,000, between 5 to 6,000 crores.
By when is your expectation of a 5 to 6,000 crore order book?
Yes.
By when?
Yes.
Kab tak?
Within 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sarfaraz Ahmed there. Yeah.
Can I just take one question? Sarfaraz, just one question. Since you're sitting on a very good book-to-bill ratio, what is the guidance that you're giving for, let's say, FY24 or maybe FY25?
So you see our last historic growth, it is our CAGR is 46.8%, and year-on-year growth in last 2 years is 55%. In FY24, we have achieved in Q1 49% growth, and in half yearly, we have a growth of 33% almost. So you can see that in the same pace we are going.
So you're saying you'll grow at 33%?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sarfaraz, congratulations on this order win. Thanks so much for tuning in. And the stock, of course, is doing very well, 8.5% higher.
Just one thing which struck me is he's talking about delayed payments because of the election cycle. So that's one to look out for all of these companies in infra projects. As governments, you're expecting the same government to come in, but as you see executions move out, things will change. And you've had a government change in Rajasthan where they had a recent order as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so keep that in mind too. But for now, because of that order win, the stock is doing well. Book-to-bill ratio seems to be solid. Okay, some developments that have happened overnight, like we said, for Adani Green, and somebody who tracks this group very closely, Johnson, Deven Choksi, director at DR Choksi FinServ, on this show. Standard disclaimer, you're watching NDTV Profit, owned by NDTV, and NDTV is owned by Adani Media Ventures. Deven, thanks so much for joining in. Good morning. What did you make of this announcement? More importantly, that the promoters are putting in 9,000 crores to work.
Yeah, Niraj, good morning. Well, I think what I understand, I think from 45 gigawatt target that they've set for themselves by 2030. I think they already reached halfway through almost, I think with around 20 gigawatts under installation or I think commission. So this is where probably I think there's a significant amount of further capex is going to happen going forward. And I think as a result of two reasons. One, I think another 2 lakh hectares of new land which they have probably picked up for putting across different kind of projects which they will be implementing in a subsequent period of time. And also to deleverage the balance sheet. I guess I think the promoters are issuing warrants to themselves and capitalizing the balance sheet with about 9,600 odd crores. To a greater extent, I think this is a good move because I think the company is in infrastructure business, creating, I think, large size green power projects using solar. And as a result of which, I think the amount of money which is required to be spent into would require own capital, which could be further leveraged because of the infrastructure status of the business, which could be further leveraged. So I think it's a very clear direction that the money is being going for growth purpose as well as for retirement of debt purpose, which is a positive thing. As on date today, I think the company is on a EBIT of around 2,000 crores on a quarterly basis with about 2,500 crore worth of revenue book, which according to me, I think once you start implementing some of these projects, would start building further and start contributing significantly to the higher amount of cash flow. The beauty part of this business is that once the capital investment is completed, the cash flow starts coming into the books, I think, very handsomely. And that's where probably I think the ability to expand the business subsequently would remain very, very high. And that's what exactly this group and this company is doing. So yes, I think they are on the normal ratio parameters. If you look at this company, it will sound expensive. But at the same time, because of this typical nature of generating higher cash flow, which is getting redeployed in building the capacity where the roadmap is clear, I guess I think that's where probably you are likely to see the premium valuation continuing in this business, at the same time expansion for the growth purpose.
Devin, any idea about whether this debt raise that they have done? Sajid was talking about the total of $3 billion, including the equity and the debt part done, right? Some of it will be used for prepayment as well, I presume. But does this set them up for with enough monetary arsenal to execute projects for the next few quarters? Is there some math like that in your mind?
Yes, Niraj, as I was making a point here, once you raise the promoter's capital is infused by way of warrants into the company, the ability to raise further amount of debt money, I think, would increases. The lender would feel more comfortable because he's seeing the visibility of cash flow, which I just mentioned, that on a quarterly basis, if you are generating about 2,000 crore worth of EBIT, then in such situation, I think you are likely to see the higher amount of acceptance from the lenders to fund this kind of projects for them. And as I was making a point, I think with this kind of cash flow coming in on a regular basis, with every incremental capacity getting into the employment of once I think it is deployed, I think thereafter you will be seeing higher amount of revenue and the profit coming in, which makes, I think, the discounted cash flow comfortable for the lenders to lend further. Clearly, it is seen that in this kind of infrastructure projects, initial years, I think they take a lot of capital. And subsequent period of time, I think they start generating huge amount of cash flow, which also one has seen in different other infrastructure projects that the group has undertaken. I'm not very uncomfortable with this. So the promoter has about 3.4% of the total equity under the pledge, with around 56-57% kind of the holding in the company, Adani Green. I think this particular infusion of capital would help them in stabilizing and I think expanding the business in a systematic.
Okay, Devin, now I know you track some of these large businesses very, very closely, the Reliance Group, Adani Group. Just trying to understand, last year, or maybe as we entered January, I can ask you this question, that last year at the same time, they were hit by this Hindenburg saga. Now that the promoter is putting in money and large money to work as well, is it a signaling as well that liquidity issues, if they were perceived to be there, right, and perceived to linger, are they now well and truly behind? And is that a soft signaling for all the group companies as well? Because there are 10 of them right there, and 9 of them are infrastructure businesses.
Yes, absolutely. I think even during this particular full 12-month period since January 23, I think the group has demonstrated their ability to raise money, I think, very, very systematically. I think never ever they have given a chance to the lender to, pressurize them, I believe. They have been very smart in raising money from the investors, which they have done all throughout the year. And that is what is probably giving the kind of an assurance on the side of, I think, the promoters who are basically remaining highly committed. Having said that, I think most of the investors, how would an investor look at this infrastructure business? They would typically look at, I think, the roadmap ahead for implementation, and they would also look at, I think, the cash generation happening from the existing business. And that's where the investor would start putting in more money into this business. India is a typical story of next 10 years of infrastructure-led growth in different areas of infrastructure. And this group remains, I think, highly prominent as far as, I think, their ability to implement the project is concerned. So in my viewpoint, I think those issues probably have happened, but unfortunately, I think this has created some amount of fear also in the minds of investors. But over a period of time, I think they have demonstrated well their abilities to continue with the implementation of the growth program. So that is where I think one has more confidence being invested into this.
Okay. Devin Bhai, lovely talking to you as always. Thanks for taking the time out and giving us some sense of these developments that have happened. That's the view on Adani Green development, and it is a big one. I mean, it's up 2% today, but yesterday was up 6%. So in all, I think it's done really well in the last few days or last couple of trading sessions post this announcement. Just very quickly before we slip into the break, Mark, what's happening market-wide as well? We're seeing some gains for some of the banking counters as well, but broadly at the broader end of the spectrum, what has done well? Well, Nuvoco is up about 5.5%. Hoodco is up about 5% as well. Kansai Nerolac on that land sale, 4.7%. And we were talking about some of the chemical and pharma companies doing well. Samina was marking this yesterday, the resurgence of COVID or other factors notwithstanding. But RT Drugs is up. Fine Organics is up in trade today. Jyoti Labs is up. But Jyoti Labs is, well, also FMCG and not as much pharma, but that is well. And cement, by the way, seems to be doing well. The star of this morning, Samina, seems to be cement.
It is.
Star, Ramco, Ambuja, India Cement, everything seems to be doing rather well for itself.
Yeah, they seem to be in a good place. So most of his cement counters are up and about. Apart from that, even some of the defensive names, Niraj, continue to be in focus. So the BLs, HALs of the world are still trading with gains of 3 to 4% each. We will talk about that a little bit more on the other side with one company that's been a star performer in a high-performing sector, and that's Zen Technologies. Ashok Atluri joins us on the other side to talk to us about what the future looks like for Zen Tech.